Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson from Software Architecture in New York City. I'm here with René Bostic from IBM. René, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I want to say thank you for this opportunity.
I would like to say thank you too. So you work at IBM in the cloud group?
That's correct, the IBM Cloud.
The IBM Cloud. Is that different than other clouds?
Of course. There's only one, right?
It's more secure or
Absolutely.
enterprise ready?
That's right.
So what are some of the interesting things you guys are doing with your IBM Cloud offerings? Are there interesting applications, interesting technologies that converge with it? What are some of the more interesting things you see happening at IBM?
Right. So what I wanted to just start off is to look at the IBM Cloud architecture, because that's probably the blueprint, if you will, that we can talk about the IBM Cloud. And I think it really centers on three things. The first is, creating scalable cloud-native applications. We've been talking about cloud-native apps now for quite some time. So that would be the first area. And it's not centered, if you will, on just what workload needs to be in the cloud or where I'm hosting my applications in the cloud. It's centered on how do I maximize the cloud in order to create new revenue streams, right? New business models. So that's the first area. And then the second area is centered on security, which is close to many, C-suites, their hearts. And so when you look at it from that perspective, is your security built in and not bolted in, right? Is it
added on?
Right,
yeah.
Right, added on, right? So is it inherent into the entire cloud architecture with, as you know, IBM has a security division, and so therefore when we look at cloud security, we're looking at it all the way from the identity of the person coming into the cloud all the way to hardware encryption. So all the way throughout the entire framework. And then the third area is creating new business applications and new services, such as, many customers find themselves in a multi-cloud environment. They thought, oh, well, we're only going to do one cloud. And so now, they look around with shadow IT. Many departments want to spawn up a cloud instance and only pay for that and then deprovision it. And so multi-cloud has been very big. Cognitive has been another area that's been very well focused, and then blockchain has been a third area.
So is cognitive part of the AI movement?
Yes, well, true. But the
Yeah.
nice thing about cognitive is it takes it a step further, and is my system really learning? Can I train it? Right? Can I be able to provide some different patterns and models that it can anticipate what I want to do, not just react.
So those are all three major components of the IBM Cloud?
Right. Well, I'm just saying, as we have evolved, right? I mean, if you look at it, you still have your infrastructure as a service layer, your PaaS layer, et cetera. But those, I wanted to talk about a little bit more of some of the new things and the capabilities.
And one of the new things that you mentioned at the very end is blockchain.
Right.
And blockchain running in the cloud provides what to an enterprise? What would an enterprise that doesn't know about blockchain comes to IBM and say, hey, we hear that blockchain can help us.
Right.
How does it help an enterprise?
Right. And so how I explain it is the value of blockchain is really centered on trusted transactions. Just as and similar to how the internet is to communications, right, today. And so when you're looking at trusted transactions, blockchain provides that capabilities where we can have assets, participants, as well as the transactions all onto a distributed ledger, right? Making sure that we all are participating in a network, a business network, solving a specific problem.
And there's no way the Russian bots can get into that network and influence the blockchain in that network?
Well, great question. Again, top of mind is security. It's built in. So I think you may be aware IBM has selected Hyperledger Fabric, which is a part of a Hyperledger project working with the Linux Foundation. And with that particular area, blockchain is permissioned, so therefore identity is key. So we work with certificate keys to authenticate people onto the blockchain. We have something called consensus, where the participants of the blockchain business network have to agree what is going to be written onto the block, and then that block is encrypted using hash. And so when you look at all of the components of the security model, and it's also immutable, you can't change it.
So that's why you can say it's trusted.
That's correct.
Because to me, it seems like it's a peer-to-peer kind of thing,
Right.
but yet it's trusted.
Right.
And that they typically don't go together.
That's right. Peer-to-peer trust is it. Well, that's what we're creating with blockchain, that whole trust across the business network.
So would you, since this is trusted, would
Right.
you put all your money in it? If it's and like, let's say it was a blockchain from a bank, and that's the bank you use.
Right.
Would you use blockchain to transfer funds and use it like that way because it's trusted?
Well, that's a great way to look at it, because let's take away, what is the business case and what is the problem I'm trying to solve? So the question now is, Renee, today, do you trust your bank?
Right.
And
right,
if I do, then
right.
it might not be an issue.
And someone could hack into that.
Right. But and I think or have heard, IBM has decided not to participate in cryptocurrency as an asset on the blockchain.
And that's the Bitcoin part.
Bitcoin,
Or
Ether, right?
yeah,
Or Ether, right?
All the different,
right. So
IOTA, all of the little, the IOTA is the IoT cryptocurrency.
Correct. So what we want to focus on are assets, whether they're tangible or intangible assets, that provides a way of traceability, that where all the parties, back to your point, can establish trust. And so one of the most, I think, popular use cases for blockchain is centered on the farm to fork. How do you know that the food that you eat is organic, as an example? And so
because the label said it was.
Exactly. Right. And so, leveraging blockchain technology, again, the asset could be a type of food, and then the participants could be then the farmer, the packaging company, the distribution company, as well as the supermarket. So those are the participants. And then how are they going to interact their transactions to guarantee that food is then organic? And that is all written onto the blockchain through consensus, everybody agreeing that this food is indeed organic.
So blockchain could really work in almost every industry?
Absolutely.
Pharmaceutical?
Correct.
Medical?
We have IBM Watson Healthcare right now that's working with many companies, working with them on the electronic health record. And so now, can you imagine, will be able to give permission to different doctors, hospitals, specialists, whether they should have access to your medical record or not.
That'd be great.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it would be authentic.
That.
You would control that.
And I walk in and they scan my code and they have all my access.
And you don't have to fill out those stacks of forms.
Whatever country I'm in.
Right, that's correct.
Oh, wow. So that's where we're going.
That's where we're going.
Blockchain.
And that's where the trust comes into. And so back to my point, and the reason why I was saying about the banking application, it depends on do you have trust or not have trust. And say, for instance, many, when they looked at the Bitcoin and the Ether, it was, can I do peer-to-peer without a bank? Right? But there are some things, I think, that if you look at banking, there's regulatory things that you have to take into consideration. And I think that's why IBM said, cryptocurrency is not really the area we want to be in. But I know that many large banks are working across the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and the Hyperledger environments to find out what is the right answer for banking. So that's why, I kind of stayed away a little bit from the cryptocurrency piece, because that's not where IBM's sweet spot is.
Are we saying trust is the same as secure? Because to me, I could trust someone, but I could still lose whatever I have in that medium, right? I could have money in something, or I could have voting numbers in something, and I trust the person that I've given that data to or contributed to, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's safe, does it?
You're absolutely right. So trust really stems from, do we all agree? Do we all have consensus that this is indeed the right answer, right? So security then says, do I have access to the right answer to me?
Okay.
I mean, that's just my
That's a good distinction. That's a good distinction,
right,
though,
right,
for
right,
people.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So where do you see IBM and your cloud and all the different things that you're doing in it in the next 12 months from now? Like, let's say we sit down next year here in New York,
Right.
and we have this conversation.
I hope so. Please
and I say,
invite me back.
Renee, what's changed with IBM?
Right.
What do you hope to be saying?
Right. Well, I will tell you, when you looked at IBM and blockchain, let's say 2 years ago, it was working with many companies to come up with what is that right business case? What is that right use case? You know, do you have a lack of trust across your supply chain, across multiple partners? And so we worked really diligently to make sure that we established some what we call blockchain consortiums. Companies together, like the farm to fork scenario, right? Being able to really identify, you know, which participants were in that. Now we're really shifting to say, why don't we provide an IBM blockchain platform that makes it easy to onboard those participants, to write the policies that everybody can adhere to. And so a year from now, I believe the conversation will shift over where you and I will be talking about, hey, Renee, can you tell me, of your active blockchain business networks, can you share some lessons learned with us? How easy it is really to stand up a blockchain business network? You know, what are they experiencing? New business models are being created, you know, those kind of things. So I think I'll be able to share a little bit more about that within the
Real
next
life
year.
case studies that are happening.
That are happening.
Yeah. And do you, one follow on to that, do you see any industries that are ahead in kind of adopting blockchain technologies for their enterprise?
Yes.
Are there industries that are further ahead?
Yes, I would say, and believe it or not, because of Bitcoin and Ethereum, you would say that finance was first to onboard on blockchain, because as you know, Ether and Bitcoin sit on top of blockchain. But coming very close would be governments. Dubai, I think you may have heard about their government being able to do e-identity. So I, as a citizen, will have all of my credentials on the blockchain, my driver's license, my passport, you know, my birth certificate, right? Exactly, all on the blockchain, right? So government, we talked about IBM Watson Health, so healthcare is coming up fast because of the electronic health record.
Will we have to opt into all these different things because there may be some things I don't want to opt into?
Oh, you could, absolutely.
Well, so there'll be different, they're almost like a module that you opt into different blockchain.
Now you're getting into architecture, right?
Well,
it all depends.
Or the new humans that we're
right.
inventing, these robots, will they have their own blockchains?
Well, you know, that's next year. But absolutely. But back to your question, you know, so government, healthcare, I would say those are the really big areas right now. Distribution is another one. You know, we have companies
like
that
shipping and freight companies,
right, that are looking at it.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Retail, very, very important. You know, customer loyalty type programs, and making sure I'm who I say I am, so that they can then, leveraging cognitive capabilities, sell to me more effectively.
Could it help TSA?
See, you're trying to get political. I was told to stay away from politics.
Yeah, well, no, that to me it would be wonderful if all my credentials were on something I put in front of the, you know, when you scan to get on a plane, and they immediately know
who
that,
you are. It could indeed.
That you just process through or you don't.
Right, but you know what's interesting, I won't get off on a tangent, but think about, you know, TSA, we have global entry, we have Concur, we have, you know, pre-check. Can't we just have everything on the blockchain?
That's right. I was at. Yeah.
So yes, indeed.
Excellent.
Indeed.
Renee, we look forward to that conversation next year.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much, Mike.